the Icons of Real Estate podcast, the flagship show of the #1 real estate podcast network, where real estate agents come to grow. Whether you're looking to scale your business, expand your network, or stay sharp with insider knowledge, you found your go-to daily dose of real estate gold. Our hosts sit down with the industry's top producers and rising stars, sharing raw stories, winning strategies, and the real lessons that create icons. With over 500 episodes and 70-plus shows in our network, we're not just another podcast. We're your competitive edge in real estate. Tune in, level up. Become an icon of real estate.
Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Icons of Real Estate podcast. With us today, I have Anthony Scavo. He's the president and COO of Basis Industrial, a privately held and vertically integrated real estate owner and operator based in Boca Raton, Florida. Anthony has 30 years of real estate development and construction experience, and he has been at the helm of each of the company's transaction, from pre-acquisition to closing and every stage in between. To take us deep into industrial real estate, welcome to the show, Anthony.
Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, I've been in real estate since I remember, either in construction, development, some other part of it. I've been doing it since I was 17.
You've had an experience that many don't, which is having a first contact with real estate since a very young age, right?
My dad was more on the construction side, so it was a kind of like a story is as long as history. I thought he was the best guy in the world. I thought he probably taught me the most out of anyone in the world too. He didn't own his own company, but we both worked for the same company. He was there 55 years. I was there 26 years. Never thought I would have another job, and here I am at my third company. And it's, I think that's what real estate does. If you stay in the industry, it changes, it evolves, so do you, right? And that's what you have to do in life. You just evolve and you change, you rise to the challenges and you take what the world gives you. It's the same thing in real estate.
So it's great that you can bring that experience to the table.
Yeah, I'll tell you something comical too. I always tell people this story. When I started in real estate, I was mostly on the construction side and development side. You had to learn how to do a detail that wasn't on a plan because they wouldn't draw everything. So you had to go to a site. You would actually walk the floor with your team and say, okay, what are we going to do here? How's this going to look? And then repeat it everywhere. And I think that's what helped me learn a lot about how buildings come together. And now I do more of the financial and fundraising, capital raising, that side of the business, loan closings. And I actually start on the opposite side, which is a little unique.
Yeah, but you get to know what's under the cover, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. And you talk to a lot of people in the business, and they have no idea how a building gets put together. They have no idea about, and they just know the numbers, the modeling, and how to make a deal look good to investors, right? And listen, that's very important. But you should know how something works, and you should know how something goes together on a project, because there's a lot of curveballs that could be thrown at you. And until you experience them in the field or on a project, on a team that's close to something, whether it be in construction, property management, or investing, you don't really know till it happens.
Exactly.
There's a lot of people in our business, especially on the investing side, know more about how to make a deal look good on a piece of paper than know how to make a deal look good in real life. But there are some things like, it's funny, you can predict you're going to raise a tenant's rent by 100%. Go try and do it. It's not as easy when you actually go to talk to a tenant, when you've dealt with tenants, when you felt their pain that they can't pay something. If you want to be retaining and keeping tenants loyal, you actually have to know how they feel and how, what a raise in rent does to them, what it does to their livelihood and everything else. Think about like a small air conditioning guy, a plumber, real American people, right? The small business of America. And that's what they do. They go out of their garage and they come to us first. Dealing with small businesses constantly, daily, is a unique experience we have. They're very prideful people, small business owners. They did a lot to get where they are, and you got to respect them and give them the respect they deserve.
It's truly valuable that you can provide that. It's like commercial. Sometimes it's seen as such a high stakes game, and you're kind of just giving opportunities, to small business owners.
Yeah, some people call them like incubation spaces, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. For someone who can't afford to go into a true retail space, come to us first. So, either taking care of someone's house, they're a contractor, an air conditioning guy, a plumber. Uh, we have a diverse tendency too. We do have some other people that, some people open gyms in these spaces. They open recording studios.
Nice. Awesome. And Anthony, like you're talking like this, it looks like a region, like a local business, right? But you scaled from being a regional player to having a national footprint, all right? And this is, of course, no small feat because we're not talking about just a simple fix and flip. We're talking about like big deals involving a lot of people. Like, what have been kind of your biggest challenge in scaling Basis?
I'll give it to you on both sides, right? So us at Basis, we have two verticals. We do self-storage development all over the country. We buy existing multi-tenant industrial properties, mostly in Florida, Texas, and now we're expanding into other Sunbelt areas, right? So we built on the storage side, we let one of the big managers manage it, sells, extra space, public storage, something like that. We would have done the same thing on the side of the business in the multi-tenant industrial space. We just didn't find anyone who did it well. So we discovered when we started to do this that we had to build out a management company as we were building out our development company. So when we went into this, which was only about less than 4 years ago, we had 2 employees, 0 square footage, and today we have 5.5 million square feet and 52 employees. So that kind of
Amazing
exponential growth is difficult. And the growing pains we had were mostly in staffing, I would say. That was the hardest thing because when you build out a team of, over 50 people, you're also trying to build a culture, right? Even though we have this hybrid, scattered workforce with 8 offices all over the world, there's no one cohesive place. So we try to build that, and you have to get people that like the culture, secure enough to be hybrid and remote sometimes, and diligent enough to keep their work product up, right? So it's a hard thing to do. And we probably had a very high turnover rate compared to most companies in the first 3 to 4 years. But now we have a stable team. People have been having, 2-3 year anniversaries with us, which we're very proud of. And, you become a real place to work and a place to be. And I was voted best boss, I think, by Commercial Real Estate once. I was very surprised at that as well. I try to be, and it's hard when you have such a diverse, scattered team. And we recently had an offsite where we brought everyone together in Orlando, which is one of our main hubs. And I think it went very well. I met some of the people for the first time face to face. And it was a very unique experience, meeting all these people, having them as a team together. I think we also bonded, and I think the company's better for it.
Nice. Yeah, you always bond when you've had hours and hours of Zoom with people, and then just one beer with them makes all the difference. But as you're kind of integrating in things, vertically, you hold the responsibility of making everything go well, right? Because if something doesn't go well, it's your fault. It's not a third party, right? Like, have you had much challenges with that as well by being vertically integrated and keeping the management in house?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you have a lot of empathy like I do, you do feel very responsible for your employees, and you feel like that, you're building a family as you're building a company, right? You just do. If you're that kind of person, I am. So when you build that, you feel responsible for everyone. You want to make sure that everyone's livelihoods are protected. And as you're building your business, you're trying to be careful, but you also have to be, let me say it, ruthless. You do. You can't act slow in our business, or you're going to be passed by, like you said before, right? So sometimes you have to make decisions that aren't the best for everyone, but are best for the company, right, as a whole. And you make those, and you move forward. And when people are coming from a fully remote environment, they come for that. Listen, we have some younger employees, they've never been in an office. They've never been full-time in an office. They graduated during COVID, right? And we hire them. They've been with us since college, and they've never been full-time in an office setting. And I don't know if they're ever going to be full-time in an office setting for the rest of their lives, right? So you're in a unique situation that I don't think anyone ever anticipated. And, you hear all these people bringing people back to the office. If you're a very large, private equity firm and you have that kind of office space, you could do that. If you're a dynamic, growing company, you're not going to put an office just to have an office to bring 5 or 6 of your team when you're already spread out everywhere and everyone's happy. I value the way I learned, and that was through being in an office with people much older than me, elders, learning and listening to them. But I don't even know if that happens anymore when people go back to the office. I used to sit in my dad's office with people like billionaires and investors and the people who own the company and people that started architecture firms that names are famous. and sit in the room with 10 guys and just talk all day about a project. I don't even think that happens anymore. That's just an old school thing. And most people wouldn't spend that much time just discussing something because you could do it on a Zoom, you could do it over email, you could do it like that. Back then, those things didn't exist. And you had more of that collaborative, like, what should we do? And there was like someone taking notes and sending those around to people, like, so they could remember what the decisions were. I honestly don't think you could replicate that again. So I get when people say that you have that collaborative and that kind of mentoring relationship, that it does help. But I think you could do that remotely and hybrid as well if you're diligent about it. You can't just have someone you never see, talk to, and just let them go about their way. I don't think that works. But as long as you're diligent about it, you're training people. I mean, just for some of the younger people, I'll give you an example, Tomas. On some of the calls, we stop, we bring up a whiteboard, we just go through like something, how it works. Like maybe they hear something. Like I encourage all the people that work for us, they ask a question if they don't understand something in the middle of a meeting with 50 people. I don't care. Like it's good because I guarantee there's 20 more people on that call that don't understand what we're talking about. And it's fine because we do once a week, we have these big calls and they go against the Bezos thing with the pizza meetings and all that stuff. They are bigger, but I think in a remote company you need that. It's like a town hall, right?
Yeah.
So you do the town hall and I tell people, ask me, we'll go through what IRR means or like a return on investment, yield, like all these things, what it means, why is it important and why you need it, right? And I think that's what's helping them become a team because no one's afraid to ask a question. We're very open and collaborative. Everyone's got a direct line to me still, even with the 52 people. And I think that's what helps us, why we grew so fast and why we're still successful at it.
Nice. I think with the right leadership, it is possible, right? And of course, it poses some challenges, this new world era, and also obviously some benefits. But as you said, as I was saying, just staying ahead and keeping up with and adapting it. And I think like we can talk for hours in terms of like recruitment and people management because that's a whole new other book. Let's piggyback a little bit back to the industrial sector. All right. So what can you tell us are some key trends shaping the industrial real estate landscape today? And how is Basis adapting to it?
Yeah. So for 10 seconds, I'll just go through what multi-tenant industrial is again. So our properties are not like most people think of industrial. They're not like an Amazon facility with one tenant, a huge building that looks like something out of a movie, right? Our parks that we own are mostly probably 3 or 4 buildings in a park. And they're probably, call it one tenant doesn't make up more than 5% of the total rent roll, right? So on 100,000 square feet, we'll probably have 20 to 50, 40 tenants, depending on the size of the tenancy, right? That's what we'll have. Our parks are bustling, there's all different kinds of cars, trucks, vehicles. So that's how it looks like. And there's all diverse businesses like we talked about. So I think today there's a lot of issues hitting us, right? Some of these guys, because of market conditions and just because of just the way they are nervous about the future, because the uncertainty that's being put out by the government and the markets, right, are a little bit more nervous than they have been about growth. So a lot of especially if they have any foreign influences, the tenants, they have been much more shy about expansion as they were last year. So people are more like, let me sign a short-term lease. Let me just stay where I am in my exact same footprint. While last year was let me lock in the rate because I'm afraid of rent growth for a longer term, right? So I think we are seeing that change. Now, we don't have people just leaving. That hasn't happened at all. But we do have people shortening the term and like being more cautious about the very near future because that's what they're worried about. It's not the far future. It's the near future, right? And I think that's one thing that's changing, even with the smaller tenancy we have, where they're not usually as concerned about the macroeconomic world, if you will. They're more concerned about the micro. And now they're less concerned about the micro, more concerned about the macro, like the big picture. And that hasn't happened yet in the 4 years we've been doing this. So it's a unique situation. And so that's one stressor, right? I think the other stressor is also, we've been expanding so fast, it was always pretty easy to find deals. This is the first time in 3.5 years we haven't had a deal on the contract. We have some LOIs out, letters of intent, looking at stuff. But I think we're in a unique situation right now in the market that so much capital has been raised to go into the sector. It's sitting there, right? Not being deployed. And there's such a few number of deals that supply and demand economic fundamental is driving the price of the deals up, not the deal quality. Does that make sense? Like it's like a little unique. And I don't think that's happened before either. So I I think we're really in a unique situation economically speaking about what's going on because you have the government trying to slow down what's happening by raising interest rates, right? Then you get a great jobs report. And they're like, oh, I can't drop interest rates. It's like you have like a dam stopping the tsunami of capital coming in, right? But it's leaking out now and it's driving price up on deals, which is making it overpricing the real estate, which might is good for real estate, bringing the price up, but it's also puts everyone in a bad position, like bidding against each other, making it harder to expand, which may slow down the growth of the organic companies that would probably succeed.
Yeah, but that's the overall then graphic between the supply and the demand, right? That's basic economics there. Is this like one of the reasons that you decided to expand for, who knows, like better deals out there?
Yeah, we've been trying to expand into different markets. I mean, right now we're mostly concentrated in Florida and Texas. Our next move is going to be into another Sunbelt state. We are slightly more prone to go into states that have just better economic and legal conditions for commercial landlords, which is the Southeast and the Sunbelt. But listen, you could buy stuff in an area that's totally land constrained, like the Northeast or the West Coast. It's never a bad thing. Those properties are only going to go up in value. You can't replace this stuff because it just costs so much to build these really small spaces. Like it costs more right now to build if you priced out a job right now, it probably costs you more to build small bay industrial than to build a multifamily building because it's basically the same thing. You're building little units with its own electrical service, its own bathrooms, its own everything.
Yeah.
So they're all like, call it contained units, which cost a lot to build. So we're buying this stuff severely below replacement cost. It's one of the moat features, So I think there is room to expand there. But the other issue is when you get closer to Wall Street on the East Coast or you get closer to the capital on the West Coast, those prices usually go up because there's so much capital that want to go into those markets. So you got that problem around the country. A lot of the deals we're trying to more concentrate on is that off-market thing, where they're a little hidden or not truly marketed. So you don't get that big pool of bidders and just overbidding things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1 million square. That's 20% increase on your overall square footage in one deal. That seems something promising.
Which we've been trying to grow by double every year, right? That's what we've been trying to do, and that's what we've been doing. This year's going to probably be tough. We started probably 4. We'd have to get to 8. We're going to probably start at 4 and get to like 6.5. It's still impressive, but it's not as exponential. And that's really, it's not because of being capital restrained. It's more because we just really can't find the deals right now that are penciling out.
Before we go a little bit more into your goals and the future of Basis Industrial, these deals that you're having competition in, is it with other enterprises that are doing similar things to you, or is just kind of like a one-off investor that is looking to like a commercial, let's call it like a commercial investor?
So it's about the size of the deal more. So if it's a deal over, like, call it over $25 million in total price, it's probably going to be a group, like an institutional, more institutional group, right? If it's under that, it could be a 1031 guy, an individual investor. Those get bid up really fast because they just want to get the money out. They want to buy something. They want to get some cash flowing. Those guys are the hardest to deal with, right? Because they're not even looking at our model. They're just like, listen, if I put my money here, I'll get a certain return. If I get the debt, I'm happy, right? It's probably 100% occupied, so they're okay. So those deals are kind of unique. But the ones that we lost recently have been against groups that raised a lot of capital, and they usually not just like as uniquely focused as us. They're more, call it, open to buying big box, small bay, all types of industrial, but they got to get the capital out, right? A lot of these companies don't really operate well unless they're getting fees on the capital that they're putting out. So it's kind of different than us. We're less based on asset management fees and more based on profit at the end of the deal. So for us, it's more, getting our investors a multiple than trying to build them annually for a long period of time. It's a little different.
Yeah, well, it's big. It's good being different.
Yeah.
Right now we celebrate being different, as we should.
It's true.
So what's next for Anthony Scavo and Basis Industrial?
Like I said, I hope we get to 6.5, 7 million square feet by the end of the year, it's
Nice.
looking better than it was in the beginning of the year. So, I mean, I think that's the first good one. We're about to fully deploy our fund that we raised, which was Basis Origin Fund 1. So we're going to probably raise Basis Origin Fund 2 and put that out, the early Q3 this year. And that's going to be a larger raise, probably went from a, $40 to $50 million fund to a $200 million fund. And that's one side of a business. So we have the fund business, then we have the siloed, traditional institutional LP business, where we do like larger deals that are just too big for a fund to really buy. And we would just buy them with our, like a single, source institutional LP. So we'll still do that. And, we have a couple more storage deals too this year. So we're still busy, and just to get more busy and keep expanding and really build a platform and a management company as well that's envied by the rest of the industry.
Nice. Keeping busy and feeling envied. What is one life lesson, if we can say goodbye to our audience, what is one life lesson that you can tell us that, let's just say, not wanting to put you on the spot there, but that can change someone's life?
I thought, okay, yeah, can I give them two?
Yes, I mean, that's you get two shots the same to change someone's life.
It went from my dad that I think was one of the best things that I tell people all the time. I used it at our offsite with my team and everything else. He always said, listen, mistakes are okay, right? Can't let them bring you down. You got to learn from them. But there's one problem. Don't never make the same mistake twice, okay? And that's true. And I think it's very unique with real estate because every deal is different, right? So you might make a mistake on a deal, but you'll learn for the next deal not to do it, right? So every deal you do, you get better at it. And it's the same for construction projects, for everything else. I remember on one construction project, they used the wrong line on a plan and drove every pile on the job 10 feet off. Actually happened. Okay? And this is not a small building. This is a 1 million square foot office building. So it was like, a big problem, right? And my dad didn't fire that guy. He didn't do any of that. He said, listen, guys, this is a thing to learn. You got to double check your survey marks to make sure that it's the right survey mark. Other companies, that would have been a firing thing, and people would have been tortured and made abused for a long time in front of people. It wasn't like that. Everything was a learning experience, and I think that's what more people have to instill in our work environment. No matter how you're doing, no matter how long you're doing this, no one's seen everything, because everything in the world's changing and dynamic, right? And then the second thing, listen, sometimes you have to, which is the opposite of what I was saying. Sometimes you have to act fast and think fast, or you're going to be passed by. Sorry, sometimes you got to make a decision. You can't just be constantly thinking about what to do, or in our business, especially, you'll be so cautious, you won't do anything. You won't make any deals. You won't grow. You got to keep growing and take some risks, or it's not going to work.
Being fast-paced is crucial in today's world. Before even we're talking about even communications and fulfillment of projects, sometimes you add time to think. You had time to think because here our competitor is sending a fax with an offer, and we have about 3 days. Right now, we are freaking 1 second. So it's if you're not fast paced, someone will get to it. So, thank you for the lessons today. Not just the lessons, but everything around into deep diving into the industrial sector, a little bit about your management style as well, and the coming up of Basis Industrial. Before we say goodbye, how can people get in touch with you?
BasisIndustrial.com. We have BaseSpace.com. We have a lot of websites. Go look at them. I think you'll get in touch with us. And if you want to email me, it's Anthony@BasisIndustrial.com. Pretty easy. I'll get the email and I respond to everyone.
He's a people's man. All right. Thank you, Anthony, for coming on the Icons of Real Estate podcast. And I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Tomas.
Loved what you heard? Subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow agents. It helps more agents find the show and tells us what you want more of. And hey, want to get featured on multiple podcasts like Icons, or even find epic guests for your podcast? Check out The Hub, the ultimate guesting platform in real estate. Link in the description. Catch you next time. Keep crushing it out there.